Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Love Against the Throne. Episode 2. Chapter 6a. We paused at the entrance as a spotlight shone on us. My brother and I stood on either side of our father. Alpha Philip Mackenzie of Zephyr Moon Pack and his children Ian Mackenzie and Gemma Mackenzie. A man said into a microphone beside us. I felt eyes look upon us. My father was one of the most respected alphas in the kingdom. No doubt other alphas were hoping against hope that one of his unmated twins would be mates to one of their children. We walked down the stairs and onto the grand floor. I looked over at my brother, who seemed to have locked eyes with a female across the room. I knew the look. My father must have seen the look also and patted his back. Go get her, son. Ian looked at us and smiled. Excuse me. He then rushed towards a red-headed female in a purple dress. I'm going to go greet the other alphas, Gemma. My father said to me. You behave and just eat food and dance. Okay, I mumbled to him as he kissed my cheek and walked away. Looking around, I felt lost. Others were clustered in groups talking. I walked towards the elegant buffet and eyed the food that was set out. The stares of thirsty males were not lost on me. I picked up a plate to place some expensive cheese and fruit on it. The scent of a male standing very close behind me made me turn. Wow, you are Gemma Mackenzie. I looked at the tall blonde-headed male. He was handsome. I'd give him that. He held out a hand. I am Jude Harrison, future alpha of the Silver Crescent Pack. I'm pleased to meet you. He seemed a little nervous to me but nice. I shook his hand. Nice to meet you, Alpha Jude. Just Jude is fine. I'm not Alpha yet. He laughed. There was an awkward silence as we stood in front of the cheese table. When others wanted access to the cheese, I stepped aside and indicated an empty table. Would you like to sit with me? I offered him. He nodded. We sat down, and I popped a piece of cheese in my mouth. So, your dad is Alpha Frederick? Yes. You have heard of him? Of course. Everyone knows Alpha Frederick. He is almost as good a warrior as my father. Jude shrugged. My dad is good but not nearly as good as yours. He had a friendly smile and seemed a lot nicer than other alphas. Of course, no one is as good as King Cassius. And what about you, Jude? How good a warrior are you? He frowned slightly. I do all right. Though I got kicked by your brother Ian a lot during alpha training. He sounded so unsure of himself. Not what an alpha should be. I felt for Silver Crescent Pack. It was a strong pack and needed a strong alpha. Poor Jude here did not sound like alpha material. You need to have more confidence in yourself, Jude. He looked at the table and played with his hands nervously. I know I am future alpha, but I was just never really into warrior training. I would rather sit in my room and read. He explained. He looked me in the eyes. I was kind of hoping that you were my mate. I need a strong Luna, and I heard you were a fierce fighter. I smirked as I popped a grape in my mouth. This poor guy was going to lead his pack to ruin. My father taught me well. Jude stiffened and then sniffed the air. He looked around and then locked eyes with a she-wolf across the room. He gulped and glanced at me. Go get your Luna, Jude. I encouraged him. I hope she is everything you are looking for. Thank you, Gemma. He stood up and then walked towards the female. Taking a deep breath, I finished my cheese and then stood up. I found a waiter walking around with a tray of wine. I stealthily grabbed a glass and took a drink. The sweet liquid soothed my nerves as I walked around the grand ballroom. There were large pictures of various warriors with the past kings and queens. I spied a picture of my father with former King Terence and flanked by the royal guard. I smiled at the sight. Then walked down the line of images. I spied a portrait of a blonde-haired woman with violet eyes. I leaned in closer to take a good look at the woman. You look just like her. I jumped when my father spoke behind me. I turned to him. Is that Grandma? He looked at me and then the picture. Sure is. My grandmother had been a legendary warrior of the kingdom. She was a white wolf like me. Fierce and deadly. Few others matched her strength and power. I wished I could have met her. A sad sigh escaped my father's lips. Me too. She would have loved you. He stared at the picture of his mother. Grandma Victoria died when my father was 16 while fighting off a legion of vampires. My grandfather John was so heartbroken at the loss of his mate that he passed a week later, leaving my father in charge of the pack at a young age. I should have known when you were born that you are my mother, incarnate. When you came out of your poor mother backward, I should have foreseen the challenge raising you would be. I narrowed my eyes at him. Daddy. I don't mean that in a bad way, Gemma. You are a white wolf like your grandmother. Hard to handle. Hard to command. My father had a devil of a time controlling her. I remember some of their fights. I'm surprised the pack house didn't burn down sometimes. He laughed while speaking of his parents. But still, they loved each other so much. Tears glistened in his green eyes. I leaned on his shoulder. They would be proud of the man you became, Daddy. He wrapped his arm around my shoulder and kissed my cheek. You may be a pain sometimes. I mean, look at my hair. It was jet black before you came along. I frowned slightly at him. But I could not be more proud to be your father. Nice save, I mumbled as he laughed and dropped his arm from my shoulder. I saw you talking to Alpha Frederick's boy, what's his name? Jude. Yeah. Poor timid kid. He has no business being in Alpha. But his older brother died in a rogue attack, and Frederick has no other children. I nodded while he spoke. He said he wished that I was his mate right before he found her. I frowned slightly. I don't know why I was a little jealous. It's not like I even liked Jude. Well, maybe as a friend. My father sighed. Well, I'm sort of glad he isn't your mate. I mean, Silver Crescent is a good strong pack, and Frederick is a friend of mine. But poor Jude trying to handle you, he shook his head. I rolled my eyes at him. Haha, I mocked him. Filly. A deep voice boomed behind us. We turned to see former King Terence approaching us. A tall, muscular man with reddish-brown hair held out his arms as he walked towards us. There you are. Terry, my father stepped forward and hugged the former king. They pulled apart, and I felt the king's eyes upon me. "Is that little Gemma?" He beamed at me. A broad smile formed on my father's face. "It is. My God's Philip. She looks just like Victoria. Just as beautiful." He held out a hand to me. "I haven't seen you since you were a little pup running around, causing mischief with your brother and my son." I tried to remember the last time I had seen the king. I was only about 7. Even though my father and the king were best friends, they didn't see a lot of each other over the years. Mostly only at formal events. They were both busy working to spend free time with each other. "Cassius told me you were the prettiest girl he had ever seen." I blushed slightly. "I was only 7, Your Majesty. I don't remember." "Gemma, your father is practically my brother. Call me Uncle Terry." He laughed. I tried to picture King Cassius. I vaguely remember his dark brown hair and striking blue eyes. He chased me all over the pack house, trying to get me to kiss his cheek. He was nearly 12, and I was only 7. My brother did his best to fight off the crown prince. "We are going to get married someday," the prince would say to me. "So, where is that son of yours?" my father asked Uncle Terry. "Cassius should be here shortly. He had to take care of a little rogue skirmish on the northern border," he explained. My father nodded. "And you didn't go help?" Uncle Terry snorted. "Hell no. Cassius can handle it. He is king now. I am retired." He patted my father's shoulder and looked at me. "I can't wait till you retire so we can go on that round-the-world fishing trip we have been talking about." I laughed at their silliness. 2 more years, Terry. 2 more years. My twin was set to become alpha of the pack when he turned 23 in 2 years. He was eager to be alpha now, but my father was making him wait till he was utterly sure the pack would be in good hands with Ian at the helm. "And what about you, Gemma? Have you found your mate yet?" I shook my head. "I don't want." I was interrupted when my father shot me a look. Refraining from saying something rude. "I don't want to disappoint my father." "You could never disappoint me, Gemma," my father added. "Yeah, except when I got pregnant at 18. Or when you caught me sleeping with Paul the first time." I mumbled in my head. "Phil. Terry." Another male voice called out to my father and the king as he approached. I recognized Alpha Frederick, Jude's father. I took that as my cue to walk away. "Daddy, I am going to go mingle." My father nodded and leaned toward me. "Just behave yourself." Nodding, I walked away, and my head hurt as my wolf started whining in my head. "Mate is coming," she kept repeating. Oh no! I had to get out of here. I looked around for a place to escape when the most intoxicating scent hit my senses. Lavender and vanilla made my legs go weak. Leonora was now howling as my heart raced. I was starting to panic. I was not ready to go with a mate. "Don't run away, Gemma!" my wolf growled in my head. I spied a hallway, hoping that was where the restrooms were. I kept my head down and rushed forward, then slammed into a chest and nearly stumbled backwards only to be caught by a pair of strong arms. The scent of lavender and vanilla overwhelmed me as sparks shot through my arms where our skin made contact. Leonora was frantic in my head. "Thank you," I mumbled as I tried to walk away only to be held by the arms. "Look at me!" A deep husky voice commanded me. The aura of his power was immense. I was instantly inclined to look up at him. My eyes traveled upwards towards the eyes of the man holding me. I gulped as I took in the beautiful specimen before me. A strong chiseled clean-shaven jawline. Short brown hair that was slightly spiked. I tried to avoid looking him directly in the eyes. "Look me in the eyes," he commanded. Compelled to obey, I looked into the most beautiful, the deepest blue eyes I had ever seen. "Mate! Mate!" Leonora shouted in my head. I groaned when I realized whose eyes I was staring into. "King Cassius!" I squeaked out and looked away from him. He kept an arm wrapped around my waist while one hand traced down my cheek, sending sparks through my body. I shivered with pleasure at the touch. "At long last, I have found my queen." His husky voice spoke. He gently tilted my head to look him in the eyes again. "I need to see those eyes again." We locked eyes again. I was feeling faint. "No, no, no. This can't be happening. King Cassius is not my mate." "Oh yes, he is." Leonora growled in my head. "Why him?" I whined at her. "Of all the male wolves, why did it have to be the king? I'm no queen. Quit your belly aching and kiss him already." Leonora was fighting me for control. I looked into the king's eyes as they changed from blue to black. "I see your wolf is fighting you for control too, mate." He beamed at me. I was frozen and unable to move or speak. "You are Philip Mackenzie's daughter, right? Gemma." He smiled. I nodded slowly. "Yes, Your Majesty." He laughed. "Gemma, call me Cassius or Cass as my friends call me. I have to get out of here," I said in my head. I felt Cassius trying to pull me towards where my father was talking to Uncle Terry and a couple of other alphas. I have to go to the bathroom," I nearly whispered. Cassius's shoulders slumped slightly. "All right, beautiful." He pulled me towards the hall and released me. "I'll be waiting right here for you." I nodded nervously and then rushed towards the restroom. Running into a stall, I vomited. I placed my hands on the stall walls and braced myself. I stood up and leaned against the stall and panted. "This is not happening. I am not the queen. King Cassius is not my mate. Get used to it, Gemma." Leonora growled. Walking out of the stall, I stopped at a sink and ran the water. I rinsed my mouth out and looked around the fancy bathroom. I spied a large window and walked over to it. It was easy to open, and luckily, we weren't that far off of the ground. Luckily I was alone in the bathroom. I climbed onto the window sill. "Gemma, what are you doing?" Leonora asked nervously. "I can't do this, Leonora. I can't be queen. I have to get out of here." I swung my legs out of the window and jumped outside. Leonora was growling loudly and howling in my head. She was fighting me for control as I walked away from the palace. I wanted to shift and run home to Nikki, but Leonora was not allowing me to shift. So I did the next logical thing. I took off my shoes and took off running towards home while Leonora protested loudly in my head. Cassius's POV standing in front of my mirror in my posh bedroom, I was putting the finishing touch on my tuxedo for tonight's royal mating ball. Normally, I was not too fond of these events where the kingdom's alphas paraded their unmated offspring around the ballroom. But tonight was the night where I would find my queen. I just knew it. My wolf Enoch was particularly restless, whining and pacing. "Easy there, Enoch." I tried to calm him. "Mate is near," he responded. I had longed to find my queen, especially now that I was king. Most wolves find their mates at 18. But I was busy preparing to become king. I didn't have time to go to a lot of parties where the she-wolves would be. If I wasn't in meetings, I was in combat training. It was a lot of work to maintain a large kingdom. I did find some time for fun. I entertained a few ladies here and there. But sleeping with one after one really wasn't my thing. I wanted my fated mate. She-wolf didn't do it for me. There was a knock on the door as my father poked his head into my room. He walked in and looked me over. "Tonight is the night, father," I said to him. "I feel it. Enoch feels it. I will finally find her." My old man smiled as he fiddled with my bow tie. "I hope you are right, my son. You have been waiting for 6 years to find her. The kingdom awaits their next queen." He smiled at me. My father is as tall as I at 6 feet 6 inches. Nearly as muscular as me. He had reddish-brown hair where mine was dark brown. We both had electrifying blue eyes. "Because time is running out," he murmured. "I know, father." 6 months, Cassius. 6 months to Finn. I cut my father off with a growl. "Don't you think I know?" He sighed. "I had 6 months until my 25th birthday to find my mate and produce an heir, or my family would be forced to give up the crown. It would be passed to my cousin Felix. He would lead the kingdom to its doom and destroy the alliances with the vampires and witches that my father had built. Felix was on bringing war to the world and enslaving the humans. I could not let that happen. It won't happen because we will find our queen tonight," Enoch declared. "Even if I have to just pick one." Enoch growled. "No. We will have our fated mate." My father's laugh brought me out of my head. "Having an argument with your wolf, son?" I shrugged. "Oh, he is adamant that I will meet my queen tonight." "I hope he is right," my father replied, looking me in the eye. He patted my shoulders. "Let's get down there. We don't want to be late." Dad. I am the king. The party doesn't start until I arrive." "That's the spirit, son." He laughed while walking towards the door. "You coming?" I was about to follow him when I received a mind link from my beta deek. "Cass, we have a rogue breach on the northern sector." A growl left my chest. "Can the guard handle it?" I replied to him. My father was looking at me. "What's wrong, son?" "Rogues," I muttered. "The warriors are reporting that there it is a combined horde of vamps and wolves. I'm running out to help them." Deek echoed in my head. I wondered if I should go there and help. My father grabbed my shoulder. "Well, you got this, son. I'm going to the party. Aren't you going to help?" He laughed. Nope. Rogues are your problem now. I'm retired. I rolled my eyes as he walked out of the room. Deke, stay safe. I am on my way. I started to take off my tuxedo. That's not necessary, Cass. I'm sure we can handle it. Deke responded. Quit arguing with me, Deke. I'm coming. I opened the door to my balcony. I shifted into my black as night wolf and leaped over the railing. Even though I was 5 stories above the ground, I landed gracefully on the ground and took off running towards the fight. We need to stay and find out, mate. Enoch growled. We are coming back, Enoch. Let's just kill some rogues to calm my nerves. I assured him. He growled in agreement as we ran. I soon heard the growls of battle. My warriors were engaged with a massive legion of rogues. I pounced on 3 and quickly ripped them apart. Their throats fell from my jaws as I snarled loudly. A few vamps ran by me. I tackled one as he punched my jaw. A loud growl rumbled out of my throat as I ripped his ugly head off. I looked around to see that my warriors had killed most of the bastards. There were a couple severely injured lying in heaps on the forest floor. My beta's blonde wolf approached me. Is that all of them, Deke? Yes, Cass. We got all of them. Though I think a few might have run off. He replied and then shifted back into human form. We'll take them to the dungeon for questioning. He explained to me as I shifted back into human form. Good. I have a party to get to. Keep me updated. I looked at my gathered warriors. You all fought well, I said to them. Deke laughed. I told you we had this under control, Cass. He was one of the few people that was allowed to call me that. Deke was more than my right-hand man. He was my best friend in the world. We had been through thick and thin. I trusted him with my life. I know, Deke. I just needed to calm my nerves. He rolled his eyes at me. Good ole, Cass. Killing rogues and vamps to calm his nerves. That party has you nervous? Hey. No, I smirked. I'm not nervous. Oh, he is nervous, Deke. My third in command, Maria, laughed from my other side. It was rare to have a female Delta. But Maria had proven herself on the battlefields, and she was one of my closest friends. She was more than capable as my third. Some questioned my decision to make her the Delta when I became king. But she quickly dispatched their doubts with her abilities. I am not nervous, you stupid. I snorted. Now, if you excuse me. I have to go meet my queen before Enoch has a meltdown. They both laughed. So, tonight is the night, hey? Maria asked. Enoch thinks so. I patted her shoulder. Anyways, I trust you both to clean up this mess. I'll see you later. I shifted back into my wolf and sprinted away. Go get her, Cass, Deke shouted behind me. Mate. Mate Enoch barked happily in my head as I ran back to the palace. He howled happily as I leaped off the ground and landed on my balcony. I quickly shifted and walked back into my room. I went into my bathroom to clean myself off before putting my tux back on. Okay, buddy. Let's get this show on the road. I smirked at my reflection as I gave myself one last once-over. The music from the ballroom echoed through the halls as I approached. I was greeted by staff and palace guards. I decided to arrive quietly. Enoch howled as I walked into the ballroom. Almost instantly, the most intoxicating scent of roses hit me. I looked around to find the source and spotted the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. She was looking around the room nervously. Tall and muscular with beautiful blonde hair, wearing a pink dress that hugged her curves. She had the build of a warrior but still maintained a feminine air. I know I had seen her before. My whole world stopped when she started walking towards me. Her eyes were downcast as she rushed towards me. I nearly laughed when she ran into my chest. She stumbled backward, and I immediately caught her in my arms. Sparks shot through my body the instant we made contact. "Thank you," she mumbled while trying to get out of my arms. I held her tighter. "Look at me," I commanded her. She slowly rose her head to look me over. She kept avoiding my eyes. "Look me in the eyes," I gently commanded her. She obeyed and looked me in the eye. My heart stopped as the most captivating violet-colored eyes landed on mine. "Mate! Mate! Mate!" Enoch howled excitedly in my head. This most beautiful woman in my arms was my fated queen. Enoch was pushing me to carry her up to my room and immediately mark her. "Calm down, Enoch," I tried assuring him. "King Cassius," my nervous mate squeaked out and looked away from me. I kept one arm wrapped around her waist as I used my other hand to trace a line down her pale cheek. "My goddess, she is perfect." She shivered at my touch. "At long last, I have found my queen." I gently used my finger to lift her chin to look at me again. "I need to see those eyes again." We locked eyes again, and I saw them changing from violet to black. I felt the same as Enoch was trying to push for control. She must have seen my eyes flickering colors too. "I see your wolf is fighting you for control too, mate." I beamed down at her. She still seemed nervous. I was finally able to place the face with a name. She was the daughter of one of my father's closest friends. "You are Philip Mackenzie's daughter, aren't you, right?" "Gemma." I smiled at her beautiful name. She nodded slowly. "Yes, your majesty." I laughed lightly. "Gemma, call me Cassius or Cass as my friends call me." I spotted my father talking to her father and a couple of other alphas. I started to lead her in that direction. I needed to show everyone here that I had found my queen. She resisted. I have to go to the bathroom," she nearly whispered. My shoulders slumped slightly. "All right, beautiful." I pulled her towards the hall where the restrooms were. I then released my hold on her. "I'll be right here waiting for you." I sensed her nervousness as she nodded and then rushed away from me. I stood against the wall for several minutes. Various females walked past me smiling. No doubt hoping to feel the mate pull with me. "Sorry ladies, I am taken." I smirked at them. Minutes went by as I waited for Gemma to emerge from the ladies' room. I looked down at my watch. 10 minutes went by before I huffed and walked to the ladies' room. A couple of she-wolves emerged, neither of which was Gemma. "Excuse me, ladies. Was there anyone else in there with you?" I asked politely. They smiled at me as they bowed. No, Your Majesty. One of them replied while attempting to grab my hand. She was looking me in the eyes, probably hoping against hope that I was her mate. I waved her off as I pushed the door open, not caring it was the ladies' room. I walked in, and Gemma's heavenly scent lingered. Gemma! I bellowed as I looked in the stalls. A cool breeze slapped me in the face as my eyes landed on the open window. I growled loudly as I realized that she had run off. Make sure Gemma Mackenzie does not leave the kingdom. I ordered them while flashing her image through the minds of my guards and warriors. Yes, Your Majesty. I stormed out of the empty ladies' room past all of the admiring ladies. My legs carried me to where my father was laughing while standing beside Gemma's father and a couple of other alphas. They all stopped when I approached them. Good to see you finally made it, Cassius. My father patted my shoulder. I directed my gaze on Alpha Philip. Do you know where your daughter is? Cassius's POV Gemma. Alpha Philip asked me with an amused smile that quickly disappeared when he saw my expression. He took a deep breath. What did she do now? I just need to know where she is, I stated. My father glanced at me for a moment and raised an eyebrow. I know he knew why. He then exchanged a look at Alpha Philip, whose face paled. Are you sure? I nodded. Yes. Your daughter is my mate. Oh. Philip breathed out and grabbed a glass of champagne from a nearby waiter. He downed the glass in one gulp, then grabbed another and downed that. He grabbed a third and started to down it when my father grabbed his shoulder. Get a hold of yourself, philosophy. The third glass went down, and Philip just stared at me wide-eyed. My Gemma is the next queen. He squeaked. And you are completely sure? A loud growl rumbled out of my chest, eliciting stares from nearby patrons. I don't have time for this, Philip. He froze and nodded. She has run off, and I need to know where she is. She ran away? He asked. That doesn't sound like Gemma. He pinched the bridge of his nose. I'm pretty sure she ran home. She doesn't like leaving her son too long. My eyes narrowed as my blood ran cold. Son? She has a son. Philip nodded slowly. Yes. He's 3 years old. Another growl rumbled out of my chest. My mate was impure. She had a son by some wolf who wasn't me. Let's gut the bastard that stole her innocence. Enoch snarled in my head. A hand squeezed my shoulder as my eyes flickered from blue to black. Cassius, you need to calm down. My father tried soothing me. He looked at Philip. Are you sure she went home? Alpha Philip pulled out his cell phone from his pants pocket. I'll call my mate and ask her to be on the lookout for Gemma. I'll also call my beta and let him know to tell my border guards to catch her. You do that. My voice slithered out icily. He nervously dialed his phone and walked a few feet away. I turned away from them and ran my hand through my hair. I can't believe she ran away. Why would she run away from me? My father was standing beside me. We'll find her, Cassius. Philip hung up his phone and walked back over to us. Melinda hasn't seen Gemma yet. But she and the pack will be on the lookout, and they will call me the instant she shows up. I nodded. Good. We are going to your territory now, Philip. Gemma is a lot to handle, Cassius. I would not be angry if you rejected her. A growl ripped out of me as I turned my attention to the Alpha. I took a threatening step towards him. Why would I reject my queen? I shouted. Philip gulped. One of the mightiest warriors in the kingdom was trembling in front of me. It's just. Gemma is a white wolf like my mother was. And she is very independent and defiant. She does not like being controlled by anyone. I smirked as he spoke. I should have guessed that my queen was a white wolf considering she had those bright violet eyes. I haven't met a challenge I couldn't beat yet, Philip. I am not rejecting her. She is mine. Philip took a deep breath. I was afraid you would say that. Dad. Philip's son Ian called out. He walked over to us with a thin, red-headed she-wolf hanging off of him. He noticed my father and me and bowed. King Cassius. Uncle Terry. He smiled and looked at Philip. Dad, I found my mate. He proclaimed happily. His father swallowed and looked at his son. That's great, Ian. This is Delilah Garza, daughter of Alpha Raymond of the Fire Moon Pack. Ian introduced the she-wolf. Nice to meet you, Delilah. He held out a hand to the she-wolf. He glanced at Ian. Your sister found her mate also. Ian laughed. So, who is poor sap that got stuck with Gemma? I growled as Philip flicked his eyes to me and back at his son. Ian looked at me and paled while his mouth fell open. Oh! He mumbled. Gemma, found a mate. Delilah sneered. I find that hard to believe. A thunderous growl rolled out of my chest as I glared at the she-wolf. How dare you speak about your queen, in such a manner? She looked at me, wide-eyed. Queen. She muttered something under her breath before bowing to me. Sorry, Your Majesty. Why would you want Gemma? She looked at Ian. I mean, everyone in the kingdom knows about Gemma. She got knocked up at 18. About another growl ripped out of my chest as she kept talking about my queen in such a disrespectful manner. I took a threatening step towards her, ready to put her in her place. Philip and Ian stood protectively in front of her. Ian, take your mate out of here, now. He ordered his son. Ian nodded and pulled his mate away from us as Philip's phone rang. He pulled it out. Melinda. He nodded as he listened to his mate. Okay. Make sure she stays put. We are coming home now. He paused while his mate responded. Love you too. He hung up the phone. Gemma is home. Melinda is making sure she stays put. Good. We are leaving now. I turned heel and started to walk out of the ballroom. I ignored the she-wolves trying to get my attention. I'm coming too, my father said behind me. Fine, I replied to him. I just wanted to get to my mate and bring her home. Bruce, bring the limo around to the front of the palace, now. I ordered my driver through the mind link. Deke, I am leaving. Okay. Do you want to tell me why? No. Just do as I say. I replied and cut off the link before he could respond. We walked outside. Bruce had the limo waiting for us. He opened the door, and I slid into the seat, followed by my father and Philip. There was an uncomfortable silence as the engine started. Bruce looked back at me. "Zephyr Moon Pack," I ordered him. He nodded and drove off. I watched as Philip's eyes glazed over. "I just told my border guards to let us pass without stopping the limo." "Thank you, Phil," I replied as I looked out the window. I was switching between excitement and anger as we drove. "Why would she have run away, Phil?" I heard the alpha sigh loudly. "Cassius, Gemma did not want to come to the ball tonight. She fought her mother, and I tooth and nail not to come," he explained. "She doesn't want a mate. She has a boyfriend." I growled as Philip spoke. "I apologize for upsetting you. But you have to know what you are getting yourself into with my daughter. Don't get me wrong. I love her. But I know how she is. How difficult she can be." I flexed my fingers and closed my eyes. "I love a challenge. How hard can one she-wolf be to tame?" Philip let out a nervous laugh and glanced at my father. "You know about my mother, right?" "Yes, Victoria the Hand Mackenzie. Everyone in the kingdom knows about her. We have entire textbooks about her in history class. Then you have an idea of how she is." I just smirked and looked out the window. "We can handle her," Enoch declared. "I have already spoken to her wolf, Leonora." I smiled to myself. Even her wolf has a beautiful name. We rode the rest of the way in silence. Finally reaching the front of Zephyr Moon's pack house, we were greeted by Philip's mate and Beta. Luna Melinda bowed to me as we approached. She looked at her mate for a second. "King Cassius, to what do we owe this pleasure?" Philip put a hand on his mate's shoulder. "Have Gemma meet us in my office immediately." The Luna narrowed her eyes at her mate. "Why, Phil? Is everything all right?" Philip pressed his lips together. "Gemma found her mate tonight." He glanced at me, and Melinda followed his eyes. Her mouth fell open. "Gemma's mate is King Cassius," she squeaked out to Philip. The alpha slowly nodded. "Yep." He emphasized the P. Luna Melinda gulped. "Oh. Come, Cassius, let's go to my office while my mate retrieves my daughter." He gestured to the door of the pack house. We followed Philip to his office. He beckoned me, my father, and his Beta inside. He walked over to a minibar and picked up several glasses. "Would you like a drink?" he asked me. I shook my head. "No, thank you." He poured brown liquor into 2 glasses, handed one to my father, and picked up the other one. He then walked around his desk and sat down. I just walked over to the large window and leaned against it while we waited on Gemma. What was taking her so long? Then her scent hit me, and I turned to see her walking into the office holding a small blonde-headed child in her arms, followed by her mother. Forgetting about my anger at her running away from me, I smiled brightly at her. "Hello, mate." Gemma's POV Leonora howled and fought me as I ran from the palace. "Go back to mate." It took all of my strength to keep her from taking over and making us go back. "I can't do that, Leonora." I pleaded with her. I was not going to be queen. I just wanted to be a simple warrior, not queen. You can't run from fate, Gemma. Leonora growled in my head. I panted as I ran because Leonora was refusing to lend me strength, and I was wearing a tight dress and no shoes. My feet were cut up from rocks and sticks, but I ignored the pain. I leaned against the tree for a moment to catch my breath. Leonora was still growling in my head. My vision blurred as she was pushing forward in my head. Stop it, Leonora, I am not going back. I snarled at her. He is our mate Gemma, she cried. You already know how I felt about mates, I argued. I am not fit to be queen. King Cassius can be free to find someone better and more suited. I tried to plead with her. But she was not easily convinced. Gemma, this isn't you. The moon goddess chose you to be the mate of the king for a reason. She wouldn't have chosen you if she did not think you were capable. Which you are more than capable of. A twig snapped, and I looked to find two male warriors in the royal garb approaching me. One stepped forward. Gemma Mackenzie? The king has ordered us to take you with us. I shook my head. No, the last thing I wanted to do was get myself in more trouble by fighting the royal guards, but I couldn't go back. He reached out and clasped my arm. I sized him up and down, and he started to lead me back to the palace. Leonora, if you help me, I promise you I will go back to Cassius. I just need to sort out my head and see Nikki. If you promise. She growled. I swear to the goddess. Now let's not hurt the guards. I felt her surge forward as I ripped my arm out of the grip. He lunged for me, and I quickly shifted into my wolf. The two guards looked at me, stunned to see a pure white wolf with violet eyes standing before them. I snarled, and they backed off. Then I leaped over them and took off towards home. The way home from the palace was quicker through the woods than it was by car. Our territory bordered the royal territory. I was relieved when I saw familiar scenery come into view. We slowed to a trot as I passed over the boundary. Using my nose, I found one of our clothing stashes and shifted back into human form, and pulled on a pair of shorts and a tank top. Then I started walking towards the pack house. A pair of strong arms grabbed me and pulled me into a hard chest. I yelped as a familiar scent took me over. Want to tell me why the royal guard is after you? Paul whispered into my ear. I turned in his arms and looked into his golden eyes. They usually made me go weak in the knees, and now nothing. He leaned down to kiss me, and it was like kissing my brother. The royal guard is after me. I tried to play it off. I had no idea. I just had to get away from the party. You know how much I hate those things. He nodded, but I knew he didn't believe me. Are you sure that's all because we have several asking for you? I tensed. Just let me go back to the house. I have to see Nikki. He took a deep breath. You know I cannot go against the royal guard, Gemma. His deep voice rumbled out. I traced my hand down his cheek and looked him in the eyes. He leaned down and kissed me again. I felt pain in my chest as Leonora growled viciously in my head. He tried deepening the kiss but just couldn't. I pulled away from him. That made bond. I no longer felt anything for Paul. Let me go, Paul. He shook his head. I can't do that, Gemma. A loud growl fell out of me. Let me go, I said in an authoritative tone like my father's alpha tone, only it was more powerful. Paul instantly let me go, and I backed away from him. There was a moment of silence between us as he looked at me with shock, and then he fell to his knees. He bowed his head. Your Majesty. How does he know? Your aura changed the moment you found out that you and Cassius are mates. Leonora explained. I shook my head. No. No. This can't be happening. The sooner you accept your fate, then the sooner we can move on. Get off the ground, Paul, I ordered him. He rose to his feet. You are the king's mate, aren't you? Not for long, Paul. I'm no queen. He smiled with his golden eyes. That is where you are wrong, Gemma. I always knew you were special. We are not meant to be, no matter how much I desired you. It's clear to me now. You shouldn't be running from your fate, my queen. I reached for him, and he backed away. I'm sorry, Paul. I felt tears fall down my cheeks. You are going to be an amazing queen, Gemma. I sensed others approaching us. He sighed. Go back to the pack house. I will cover for you. I tried touching him again, and he backed away from me and sprinted towards the others that were approaching us. Taking a deep breath, I took off towards home. I needed to get home and see my baby. Relief washed over me when the house came into view. It would always be my home. I felt the eyes of the pack on me as I walked swiftly to the door. No one said anything. I smiled at them as I walked towards the living room. My heart swelled when I heard Nicky giggling. He was sitting on the couch in his father's lap. Others were sitting on the couch, watching a movie. Their heads all snapped to me when I entered the room. Mommy! Nicky broke the silence and hopped off of Jeremy's lap and ran over to me. I picked him up and hugged him tight to me. I kissed the top of his blonde head. Hi, Nicky. I missed you. I walked towards the couch. Was he good? Jeremy shrugged. Of course, he was. He looked me over. So, how was the ball? He eyed my attire. Boring. I sensed my mother had entered the room. I also felt her anger. I turned to see her standing in the doorway, glaring at me with her arms folded. The rest of the pack members had their heads bowed, sensing their Luna's anger. I mustered a weak smile. Hi, Mom. I had to leave the party. She said nothing. She just kept her icy stare on me. I needed to come home to check on Nicky. I looked at Jeremy. What happened at the ball, Gemma? My mother's voice slithered out like venom. I shuddered. I had rarely heard that tone in her voice. Nothing. It was just a boring old ball. I missed Nicky, so I had to come home. Her expression remained cold. What happened to the dress? Oh. I said in my head. That expensive dress has now in shredded pieces lying on the forest floor. I took it off to shift and forgot it. She gave me a look. She knew I was lying. There was no fooling my mother. She stepped towards me. Nicky shrank into my chest. Even he could sense how angry his grandmother was. Well, you better go take care of Nicky. It's past his bedtime. I nodded. Okay. I glanced at Jeremy before exiting the living room. I quickly made my way to my room. I set my sleepy son on my bed and sighed as I sat beside him. I patted his back. "Mommy," he muttered quietly. "Let's get you ready for bed," I said to him. He suddenly shot up from the bed. "No, I'm not tired." He giggled and ran over to his bed and jumped on it. "Nicholas, no jumping on the bed," I yelled at him. He merely giggled and kept jumping. I walked over to him and picked him up. "It's time for bed." I kissed his nose. "But Mommy, I want to play some more." I sighed as I walked towards my bathroom. "How about I put you in the tub, and you can play a little in there?" He nodded as I set him down. He ran into the bathroom. I followed and turned on the faucet and then helped him undress. I added some of his favorite SpongeBob bubbles and threw his toy boats into the filling tub. I picked him up and set him in the tub. He giggled as bubbles touched him. I turned off the water and sat beside the tub. He made funny noises as he played with his boats and toy sharks. I picked up a washcloth and began to wash him. "Mommy, what does a boat say?" I laughed. "Boats don't say anything, silly goose. They are boats. They go honk honk, Mommy." He giggled as I began to wash his hair. "Do they now, my silly boy?" He nodded. "Yes." He made mock honking noises as he splashed around. I finished washing his hair. "Time to rinse. Close your eyes." He closed his eyes as I rinsed his hair. Once done, I let him play for a couple more minutes. "Are you ready to get out now?" He nodded. "Yes, Mommy." He stood up, and I wrapped him in a towel and dried him off. Then I carried him into my room. My mother was standing in the doorway. Her face held no expression. "Your father just came home," she said without emotion. I shrugged as I set Nicky down and opened the drawers to get his pajamas. My mother had approached me. "Cool. You did it this time, Gemma." She spoke angrily. "He needs you in his office now." "Mom, I need to put Nicky in bed." I picked up my son. He snuggled against me. "Now, Gemma," my mother ordered in her Luna tone. Unfortunately for her, it no longer had any effect on me. Her eyes widened when I just stood there. "So, it is true." Tears sprung into her eyes. "You are the queen," she whispered. "Don't cry, Grandma," Nicky said to her. My mother pressed her lips. "We need to go down to your father's office now," she said calmly. "Please." I nodded. "Okay." I held Nicky tighter to me. Surely my father wouldn't be too angry with me while I had my baby in my arms. I followed my mother out of my room. We passed pack members who stared at me with wide eyes. Tiffany ran up to us. "Mom, why is the king here?" my sister asked my mother, who shot me a look. "Why indeed, Tiffany?" Tiffany gave her a confused look, then turned her gaze to me. "How was the ball?" she asked, trying to lighten the mood. "You know, just another boring old ball," I replied to her. My mother shot me a look that silenced my sister and me. As we approached my father's office, the scent of lavender and vanilla hit me like a truck. I couldn't shake how it made me feel. We walked into the office. My father was sitting behind his desk with a drink in his hand. Beta Mark leaned against the wall while Uncle Terry was sitting in one of the chairs in front of my father's desk. My eyes stopped on Cassius, who was leaning against the window. He turned his gaze to me. I was expecting anger, but instead, he smiled warmly at me. "Hello, mate." I gulped and glanced at my father, who was looking at me through glassy eyes. No doubt he had a lot to drink tonight. He nodded at Mark. The beta walked over to me with arms out. "I'll take Nikki," he said to me. "No," I held my son tighter to me. My father issued a low growl. "We need to talk, Gemma. And Nicholas needs to go to bed." I sighed. "Come to Papa, Nikki." Mark smiled at his grandson. "Let's go find your daddy." I let him take my son out of my arms. "I'll be up to tuck you in soon, Nikki." He waved bye to me as Mark carried him out of the office and closed. My mother had walked behind the desk and stood behind my father with her hand on his shoulder. My father pointed to the empty chair. "Sit," he ordered in his alpha tone, which no longer affected me. I just stood there. He sighed. "I know my tone no longer affects you. But sit anyways," he ordered through gritted teeth. Not wanting to argue, I sat in the chair. Uncle Terry exited the other chair as Cassius sat in it. He grabbed the chair I was in and turned it, so I was facing him. His electrifying blue eyes bore into me. "Look at me, Gemma," he said softly. Taking a deep breath, I looked into the blue pools. My wolf howled happily. His eyes flashed black for a moment before returning to blue. "You ran away from me, Gemma." His voice sounded sad rather than angry. I looked away from him. Suddenly I couldn't face him. I panicked. "Your father here tells me that you don't want a mate." I nodded as I felt tears in my eyes. I have a boyfriend," he growled. "Is that the scent I smell all over you besides your pups? Don't think I didn't sense you kissing him." My blood ran cold. "Told you." Leonora snarled in my head. I kissed my son on the top of his head. "Quit lying, Gemma. Who did you kiss?" my mate asked coldly. I wasn't going to tell him who my boyfriend is or was. I didn't want him to punish Paul. Paul Daniels." He raised an eyebrow and glanced at my father. "I want him punished." "No. Please. Don't. Paul is a good warrior. Please." His blue eyes landed on me again. "But he touched what is mine. It was my fault." "He didn't know, Your Majesty." "Cassius, I am your mate. Call me, Cassius." He sighed. "I won't punish Paul. He is too good of a warrior." He looked at my father. "But I don't want him anywhere near you for the foreseeable future." My father nodded. "He will remain here." Cassius turned his gaze back to me. "So, I hear you have something to say to me." He paused. I tilted my head in confusion and opened my mouth to say something. "Say it, Gemma. Reject me. That's what you want, isn't it?" I trembled as I tried to speak. He laughed coldly. You can't say it, now. Taking a deep breath, I looked him in the eyes. This was my opportunity to free myself from him. I could make up with Paul, and we could resume our relationship. I could remain here in my pack. I, Gemma Sky Mackenzie, reject you, King Cassius Fury, as my mate. There should have been pain from the mate bond breaking, but Cassius merely laughed. I looked at my father, who had his face buried in his hands. Gemma, you cannot reject the king, he said quietly. My mouth fell open. But you can reject me, right? I asked Cassius, who nodded. Fine. Reject me. Trust me. You don't want me. I am not queen material. Cassius laughed again as he pulled my chair towards his. I trembled as he leaned towards me and grabbed the arms of the chair, and stared at me dead on. I will never reject you, Gemma Mackenzie. He brought his lips close to mine. His scent overpowered me, making my stomach flutter. My heart raced as he brushed his lips against mine. The sparks that flew through my body made me shudder with pleasure. He then pressed his lips to mine, and the whole world spun as my body betrayed me and leaned into the kiss. Tell me you don't feel that, he whispered to me. He pulled away, and his lips were against my ear. The goddess chose you for me for a reason. And unlike you, I do not question her wisdom. You are mine. He stood up. Now, go pack your bags. We leave first thing in the morning. I was momentarily frozen in place. Then I remembered. I can't leave, Cassius. I don't want to take my son away from his father. Cassius glanced at my father. I followed his gaze as my father looked at me sadly. Gemma, he said my name as my mother squeezed his shoulder. Nicholas is staying here. What? I asked as tears fell down my cheeks. What do you mean? The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I glared at Cassius. I can't leave Nikki. I nearly yelled. I can't have the result of your infidelity running around my palace, Gemma, Cassius explained to me. Infidelity? I didn't cheat on you. That was before we knew we were mates. I cried as the tears flowed freely out of my eyes. In the eyes of our goddess, producing a pup with someone who is not your mate is infidelity. I will forgive that indiscretion along with the others because I have slept with women who were not my mate. But the child stays here. No. I sprang to my feet. Mom. Dad. I started sobbing. Don't make me leave, Nikki. I can't leave Nikki. My mother walked over to me and attempted to wrap her arms around me. I pushed her away and glared at her. Gemma, Nikki will be well cared for. I shook my head. I couldn't believe it. Not only was I being taken from my home, I was being forced to leave my son. Sobs racked my body. Please, Cassius. Please don't make me leave him. I can't leave him. I grabbed Cassius's arms and ignored the sparks. I looked him in the eyes. Please. Cassius pressed his lips together. I'm sorry, Gemma. He spoke out coldly. Leonora growled in my head. Even she didn't like the idea of leaving our pup behind. My heart shattered as I continued to sob. I needed to get out of this office. I opened the door and ran out, ignoring Cassius and my father calling to me. Gemma's POV tears streamed down my face as I ran out of my father's office. I ignored my father and maid calling to me. I stopped right before stepping into the living room. I took a deep breath and wiped the tears from my face. Nicky was lying on his father's lap on the couch. My friend Louis was sitting beside Jeremy. There were several other pack members watching a TV show. Their heads all snapped to look at me as I walked over to the couch. I sat down beside Jeremy. He and Louis looked at me with a wide-eyed expression. "What's going on, Gemma? Why is the king here?" Louis asked me. I shook my head and shrugged. I placed my hand on Nicky's arm. "Hey, buddy. Are you ready for bed?" He looked at me sleepily as Jeremy stroked his hair. Nicky shook his head. "I'm not sleepy," he mumbled. Jeremy chuckled softly. "Poor guy is exhausted. My dad couldn't get him to go to sleep, so I brought him out here. He refused to sleep until he knew you were okay." My heart sank. I stroked my son's arm. "Nicky, baby. Mommy is okay. You can go to sleep now." I held out my hands to him. "Come on, baby." I gently lifted him from his father's lap and rose from the couch. I noticed everyone in the room stiffen as Cassius's scent hit me. They all bowed their heads as Cassius stood behind me. "Gemma," his voice said behind me. I ignored him and started to walk out of the living room. His strong hand stopped me. "Cassius, leave me alone." I hissed and pulled myself from his grip. I turned to him with a glare. "We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you." I nearly spat. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to put my son to bed." I turned heel and ran out of the room, ignoring the whispers of my pack. "Mommy, who was that man?" Nicky mumbled while lying on my shoulder. "No one." I sighed as my wolf growled in my head. Tears threatened to fall from my eyes again. I just needed to focus on my baby. I carried him into my room and laid him on my bed. "You can sleep with mommy tonight." I walked over to his bed and grabbed his stuffed wolf, and then placed it beside him. "Here is Jeremy." He cuddled the stuffed wolf to him as I positioned my blankets around him and sat on the bed. His little eyes were slowly closing as I heard a knock on my door. Jeremy stood in the door frame. I beckoned him into the room. He walked over and stood beside the bed. He smiled down at our son. "Good night, buddy." He leaned down and kissed Nicky on the forehead. Nicky merely stirred as I stroked the top of his head. His breathing steadied as he quickly fell asleep. After I was sure Nicky was sleeping, I stood and walked into my closet. I pulled out my suitcases. Part of me was tempted to run away. Pack my things and take Nicky far away. But I knew that Cassius had the resources to find me wherever I went. "So, you are King Cassius's mate?" I nodded sadly as I started throwing my clothes into the suitcases. Not bothering to fold anything. "Yet." He laughed nervously. "Boy, is he in for a wild ride." I rolled my eyes at him. "I don't want to leave Nicky." Jeremy walked towards me and pulled me into his arms. I felt comforted by him. Despite everything that had happened between us, I still had feelings for him. I leaned against his chest. It's not right what he is asking you to do. Nicky is too young to be without his mother. He spoke softly as he stroked my arms. It reminded me of when we were together. I should have marked you. I should never have accepted Esther. He whispered in my ear. Then you would be mine, and the king wouldn't be taking you away from us. I looked him in the eyes. I knew it was wrong, especially with Cassius in the house, but I allowed him to kiss me. My chest hurt the moment our lips made contact, but I didn't push him away. Then a thunderous growl shook the house, and I pushed Jeremy away from me. You have to go, I ordered him. He sighed as I pushed him out of the closet. Go, I whispered. He sighed and then turned to leave, but Cassius was blocking the doorway. My hand was on Jeremy's chest. A vicious growl rumbled out of the king as he turned a murderous glare on Jeremy. What are you doing here with my mate? His tone was ice cold. He stepped threateningly towards Jeremy. I jumped in between them and put my hands on Cassius's chest. Jeremy was helping me put Nicky to bed, I explained. Cassius snorted. So, you are the one responsible for that. He pointed at my son, who was sleeping through all of this. Yes, Your Majesty. I am Jeremy Warner, Nick's father. He held out a hand. I was helping Gemma with our son, and then I was helping her pack. And that somehow involved you touching what is mine. Cassius bellowed, causing Nicky to stir in his sleep. I growled. Cassius! Keep your voice down, so you don't wake Nicky. I still had my hand on his chest. The sparks that were running through my body made me weak. He looked down at me. Sorry. He mumbled. You don't think I didn't feel him touching what is mine? Sighing, I removed my hand from his chest. He just hugged me, and I didn't stop him. A low growl rumbled out of Cassius. I glared at him. Jeremy is one of my best friends. He was just comforting me. Cassius's eyes flicked to Nicky. It looks like you two are a lot more than just friends. We didn't do anything, Your Majesty. Jeremy breathed out. I have a mate. I was just comforting Gemma. We go way back, okay? Sorry if it felt like anything more. Gemma is just my friend. It stung a little for him to say I was just his friend. I don't know why. But it seemed smart of Jeremy to say it like that. Otherwise, I'm sure Cassius would have killed him. Now, get out so I can finish packing. I sneered at my mate. Only if he leaves too. I shook my head. No. He stays. Cassius narrowed his eyes at me. Did you just tell me, no? Yes. No one tells me no. I laughed. Well, get used to it because I am about to say it a lot to you. Now get out. I pointed to the door. I'll see you in the morning. The king growled before storming out of the bedroom. Jeremy looked at me, wide-eyed. Gem. I can't believe you got away with that. I just shrugged and headed back into my closet to finish packing. He helped me, and before long, my bags were packed full of my clothes and other belongings. The suitcases were set beside the door, and I was exhausted. Thank you, Jeremy. He stood in front of me. You are welcome, Jem. I would do anything for you. He reached out to touch me, and I backed away. You better not touch me again. We can't have another incident. I looked him in the eyes. There was still a twinge of feeling for him. He is my son's father, after all. I wanted to kiss him but couldn't. Good night, Jeremy. Esther is probably waiting up for you. He rolled his eyes. Right. Boring, Esther. Probably sitting up in bed knitting. He mumbled. It will be another night of jerking it in the shower. He sighed. Good night, Gemma. He said before exiting my room. I closed the door behind him. I was honestly a little shocked by what he said about Esther. They seemed to be so much in love, but it was clear that Jeremy still had feelings for me. The sad truth is I still had feelings for Jeremy. I always had. And now, my life was even more complicated with Cassius in it. I walked into my bathroom to shower. It was nearly 1 in the morning. In just a few short hours, I would be leaving home and leaving my baby. Tears fell from my eyes as I sobbed. After my shower, I climbed into bed beside my sleeping son. I pulled him close to me and fell asleep listening to him breathe. The next morning I was awakened up by my alarm. It was 7 am. Nicky stirred beside me and opened his little eyes. I rose from my bed as I heard a knock on my door. I walked over and opened it, revealing my mother. Are you ready to go? I shook my head. I'll never be ready. She sighed and pulled me into her arms. Everything is going to be all right, Gemma. She cried into my shoulder. I just stood there as she sobbed. I rubbed her back. Don't cry, Grandma, Nicky said beside us. My mom pulled away from me and ruffled Nicky's hair. Grandma is fine, Nicky. Just hugging your mommy. The overwhelming scent of lavender and vanilla filled my senses as Cassius's form filled the door frame. Are you ready to go, Gemma? I glared at him. Not yet. Well, hurry up. Cassius, I would like to have one more breakfast with my son. His blue eyes narrowed at me. We need to get going, Gemma. I have a lot of work to do today. Please. I looked him in the eyes. His gaze softened as he sighed. Fine. 1 hour. He looked at my mother. Have one of your Omegas put her luggage in my car. My mother nodded. Yes, Cassius. I walked into my bathroom and quickly went through my morning routine and then helped get Nicky dressed and then took him down to breakfast. After breakfast, I stood in front of the pack house, where most of the pack was gathered. I was saying goodbye to my friends and family and trying to hold back tears. My brother had come home late from the ball. He pulled me into a tight hug. I love you, Gemma. He said to me. I'll see you in a few weeks as I have more alpha training at the palace. I sighed and nodded as he released me. I love you too, Ian. I was then pulled into a hug by my father. Behave yourself, Gemma. He spoke into my ear. I love you. He released me, and my mother pulled me into another hug. She sobbed as she squeezed me hard. She then looked at me with tear-filled eyes. I'm going to miss you. I can't believe my baby is going to be queen. Please, for the love of the goddess, behave. I nodded as I stood in front of my sister. We hugged tightly. Bye, Tiffany. I love you. Keep doing your best in Luna training. You will make us all proud. She smiled. Thank you, Jem. Walking down the line, I stopped at Nikki. Jeremy was holding his hand. I knelt in front of him and hugged him. Nikki, baby. I am so sorry. Mommy has to leave you for a little bit. He started sobbing as I hugged him. Don't leave me, Mommy. I stifled the sob in my throat. I have to, baby. Tears fell down my cheeks as I hugged him tightly. I didn't want to let him go. Mommy loves you so much. Stay here and be good for Daddy. His sobs grew louder, which made me cry harder. It will be okay, Nikki. Sparks flew through my body as Cassius touched my shoulder. We have to get going, Gemma. His deep voice rumbled out gently. Reluctantly, I released my son and stood up. Jeremy reached down and picked Nikki up, who was still crying. I looked Jeremy in the eye. Take care of him, Jeremy. He nodded sadly as our son sobbed in his arms. Bye, Gemma. Cassius wrapped his arm around me and pulled me towards the waiting limo. The gathered pack bowed their heads as I walked by them. I waved to them. I saw Paul standing among our warriors. He smiled softly at me. We almost reached the limo when I heard Nikki screaming for me. Mommy! Mommy! I turned to see him running towards me with Jeremy close behind. I knelt as he ran into my arms. I fell to the ground as he sobbed loudly against me. I released my sobs as I rocked him. Don't leave me, Mommy! He repeatedly cried between sobs. I'll be good. Just don't leave me. I'm so sorry, Nikki, I told him as I sobbed. I felt Cassius's arm on my shoulder again. I pulled away from him. Gemma, we have to get going. He pulled me to my feet with my hysterical child in my arms. Beta. Take you, son. I held Nikki tight to my chest, not wanting to let him go. Jeremy held out his hands. Reluctantly I loosened my grip, which only made Nikki tighten his hold on me. Come on, buddy, Jeremy spoke softly to him. Mommy has to go. No. He screamed. No. Mommy can't leave. His little fingers clawed into my shoulders as Jeremy had to pretty much pry him out off of me. Jeremy struggled to hold him as I was whisked away to the car. Cassius slid into the car first, and I looked back to my pack. My mother was being held tight by my father as I saw the tears falling from the eyes of most of my beloved family. Nikki was still screaming as I slid into the car. Mommy! He kept screaming for me. Mommy, don't leave me! The driver shut the door and ran to get into the driver's seat. I could still hear my baby screaming for me. I looked out the window as Jeremy was struggling to keep Nikki calm. My heart ached as I saw my pup in pain, and I couldn't go to him. The limo started to drive away, and I bawled as I turned in the seat and watched as my son and home faded away. Cassius pulled me down onto the seat. He tried stroking my arm, but I swatted him away. I curled up in the seat and continued to sob hysterically as my son's screams echoed in my head. Even Leonora was whimpering sadly in my head. I sobbed until I could sob any more. I closed my eyes and cried myself to sleep. Love against the throne. Jeremy's POV. I held my struggling, hysterical son tightly as the royal limo drove away with the woman I love. Poor Nicholas just kept calling for his mother, and it took everything I had to not break down. Once the limo was out of sight, I walked back towards the pack house. Our pack slowly dispersed. Alpha Philip and Luna Melinda watched as I approached them. Luna gently stroked Nick's back. My poor grandpup. She had tears streaming down her cheeks. Do you want us to take him? I shook my head. I was going to worry about my son. I got this, Luna, I spoke quietly as I brushed past her and my parents. I walked into the pack house and passed my mate Esther. She said something, but I didn't listen to her. Nick was still crying, and I was focused on him. No one else mattered to me at the moment. I reached my room, lay down on my bed, and held Nick on my chest as he slowly cried himself to sleep. Esther walked in and sat on the bed beside him. She tried stroking my son's back. Don't! I snapped at her. I just want to help, Jeremy. She pressed her lips together as she looked away from me. She took a deep breath and stood up. I'll go get you guys some water. I nodded as she walked out of my room. I just stared at the wall as my son slept on my chest. When he was an infant, I often held him on my bare chest. I bonded instantly with him the day he was born. Flashback 3 years ago. Push Gemma, Dr. Mitchell said to her. Beads of sweat covered her body as she cried from pain and exhaustion. The labor had been long and arduous. She was panting as she squeezed my hand. Come on, Gemma. You can do it. I tried reassuring her. Her mother stood on the other side of her holding her other hand. Her 6-month pregnancy had been hard on her. She spent most of it on bed rest. Now the labor had been hard as she was bleeding too much. The doctor was suggesting a C-section, but my Gemma was adamant that the birth was natural. Okay, Gemma, I can see the head. A few more pushes. She screamed as another contraction hit her, and I watched as she pushed. I ignored the pain in my hand as I stroked her forehead. Her violet eyes looking up at me. I can't do this, she spoke quietly. Yes, you can. You can do anything. After another contraction and one final effort, I heard the pup's cries. It's a boy, the doctor declared as he held up our son. I looked down as Gemma's eyes rolled into the back of her head, and she passed out. Gemma. I shook her. Gemma. Her mother called to her. The doctor then pushed us out of the room. Luna Melinda was hysterical as nurses, and the other doctor rushed into the room. I could hear my son's cries coming from another room as they worked on reviving Gemma. What is going on? Alpha Philip asked behind us. Luna fell into his arms and sobbed. She passed out, and there is blood everywhere. I looked through the window. My Gemma was bleeding to death. I felt my heart being ripped from as I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. I felt a hand on my shoulder and opened my eyes to see my parents standing in front of me. It's going to be okay, son. My father tried to reassure me. This never should have happened. I heard the alpha growl. He had been angry about Gemma's pregnancy from day one. He was often shooting resentful glares at me. He made it clear that he wanted nothing to do with my pup. Luna Melinda, thankfully, had been more supportive along with my parents. I heard the baby crying, and I glanced at a nurse who had walked into the waiting area with a blue bundle in her arms. "Would you like to hold your son?" she asked me. I hesitated as I looked down at the bundle. He was still crying. No doubt sensing his mother's distress. "He won't stop crying. Go on, Jeremy." My mother encouraged me. "Your pup needs you." I reached out to the nurse and took the bundle into my arms, and all at once, the world stopped as I looked at the tiny crying pup. His blue eyes, matching mine, looked up at me, and he stopped crying. Tears fell from my eyes as I smiled down at him. "Hey, buddy. I'm your daddy." I sat in one of the chairs. My parents sat on either side of me. Luna Melinda stood in front of me. "Oh, he is so beautiful!" my mother cried. I couldn't take my eyes off of him. "What is his name, son?" my father asked me. Gemma and I had discussed names. But we had waited to find out his gender. But we hadn't officially decided on a name, but we had a list. And one had stuck out, the name of my maternal grandfather. He had been my hero growing up. "Nicholas." I blurted out. I hoped Gemma wouldn't be angry that I had chosen our son's name. "Nicholas Philip Warner." I said his whole name. Gemma wanted his middle name to be Philip no matter what. Some emotion flashed in the Alpha's eyes, but he said nothing as Dr. Mitchell walked into the waiting area. Alpha and Luna were instantly in front of him. "How is my daughter?" Alpha demanded. "We stabilized her after her heart stopped. She lost a lot of blood. It may be some time before she wakes up." Luna sobbed against the Alpha. "But she'll be all right?" Alpha asked the doctor. The doctor nodded. "I believe she'll be fine, Alpha." "When can we see her?" Luna asked. "Soon," he replied before walking out of the room. Alpha sat down in a chair in a heap and launched a deadly glare at me. "This never would have happened if you had kept it in your pants," he growled at me. My father growled at him. "Phil, we both know that Gemma is just as guilty." Alpha Philip launched out of his chair and grabbed my father by the neck. He was about to punch him when Luna stopped him. "Philip! For goddess sakes! Calm down!" He released my father and pushed him away. "Gemma almost died because of him." He pointed at me. That only made my father growl viciously at him. The Alpha kept his gaze on me. I shuddered. Taking a deep breath, I looked down at my son. "Alpha, you can be mad at me all you want. But please don't be angry at Nicholas." The Alpha seemed to soften his glare and sighed. He ran his hand through his graying hair and exchanged a tense glare with my father. Their friendship had been strained since Gemma got pregnant with my child. "Would you like to hold him?" I said to the Alpha, trying to keep the peace. He sneered. "No, Gemma would want you to hold him." I pleaded with him. Everyone else in the room looked at him, waiting for his response. I stood up and walked towards Alpha Philip. "Hold your grandson, Alpha. He is innocent in all of this." "Fine," Alpha responded, and I carefully placed my son in his arms. He looked down at the bundle with a hardened gaze that instantly softened as he looked into the pup's eyes. My goddess! Look at this pup! He smiled as tears fell from his green eyes. I sat in my chair as my son was passed around by his grandparents. An hour passed, and Gemma's siblings took turns holding my son as the doctor walked into the room. She's awake, he declared. And she is demanding to see her pup. I laughed as I retrieved my son from the arms of his uncle. I better take him to her. The flashback faded as Esther walked back into our room. She set some bottles of water on the nightstand and sat beside me again. I softened my gaze at her. She was trying to help. I'm sorry I snapped at you. Apology accepted. She placed her hand on my son's back. This time, I allowed her. Esther had always been good to Nick. I promise to be a good mother to your son. I had to hold back a growl. She is not his mother. She would never be his mother. Stepmother, I mumbled. She frowned slightly and nodded. Of course. She stood up and started walking out. She paused. I am just going to go watch TV with the girl. She referred to her friend in the pack. Okay, I replied without emotion as she left the room. My relationship with Esther was a tense one. The day I had met her, I felt strongly about her because of the mate bond, but I was prepared to reject her. But my father demanded I accept her. Esther is the daughter of the beta in a rival pack. Her being my mate would help establish an alliance and prevent a fight. So, reluctantly I accepted her. It broke Gemma's heart when I had to break up with her. It broke my heart because of how much I loved her. I still love Gemma. Esther is a good woman. Quiet and obedient. Everything a man should want in a mate. But to me, she is boring. Always reading or talking about art. Stuff I had no interest in. She is a prude when it comes to X. In the 2 years we had been together, we had only had X twice. Once so, I could mark her and complete the mating ritual, and even then, there was very little passion. She told me she isn't into X. I had to give up the love of my life for this boring she-wolf. I swear the moon goddess was punishing me for getting Gemma pregnant so young and because she wasn't my mate. I didn't regret it. And now Gemma was gone. She was now the mate to none other than King Cassius. I was never going to get her back. I could only take care of our son to the best of my ability. I would have a piece of Gemma forever. Something the king would never have. I know Gemma. She was furious at the king for taking her away from Nicholas. There was a chance she would never forgive him for that. That meant she was unlikely to complete their mating and give him pups. I smiled at that. Gemma was going to make his life a living hell, and I could not be happier about it. Eventually, he will get tired of her and reject her. Then I would be there to pick up the pieces. I would reject Esther and then take Gemma and Nick far, far away from here. And together we would live happily ever after. Cassius's POV. Gemma was curled up beside me in the limo, bawling her eyes out. It broke my heart. I wanted to comfort her. But she kept swatting me away, so all I could do was watch her. Enoch whimpered sadly in my head. Seeing our mate in such distress was painful for him. She was curled up against the door as far away from me as she could physically get in the car. I knew making her leave her pup behind would be hard. I didn't think it would be this hard. But I couldn't have him in my palace. Call me selfish. It was evidence of her infidelity. Even though it was long before we met in the eyes of the goddess, it was infidelity to have a pup with someone who was not your mate. And I knew that wasn't her only indiscretion, as her father had told me. They had put her on birth control because of her wild ways. I was able to forgive her for that. I had not been faithful, so it was hypocritical to be angry at her. But seeing the pup that resembled his father running around my palace was too much for me. She needed to see it from my point of view. I listened as Gemma's breathing evened out. She had fallen asleep. She was still curled up in the seat. I gently placed my hand on her exposed arm. Sparks shot through my body as I gently stroked her soft skin. "Don't push her, son." My father finally spoke. I shot my gaze at him. I pulled my hand away from her. It pained me to see her in this state. I ran my hand through my hair and looked out the window. "It will be okay, Cassius." My father tried reassuring me. Taking a deep breath, I shot him a slight smile, but we both know it was not genuine. Hopefully, once we got Gemma to her new home, she would settle in, and I would be able to claim her. Yeah, if she ever forgives us. Enoch snarled. It was rare for him to be angry at me. But right now, he was angry. She'll forgive us. You came between a mother she-wolf and her pup. He explained. I sighed heavily as the limo had pulled to a stop in front of the palace. Gemma was still sleeping. Reaching down, I gently shook her to no avail. She just snored softly. Sighing, I exited the limo and walked around to her side, and gently opened the door. I lifted her sleeping form into my arms. She stirred slightly but remained fast asleep. I lowered my nose to her neck and took in her heavenly scent. The driver was standing beside the limo door. "See to it that her luggage is brought up to my room," I ordered him quietly. "Yes, Your Majesty." My beta Deke was standing at the entrance. He smiled as I approached with my sleeping queen in my arms. "Okay, you just randomly leave the mating ball without saying a word to anyone, and now you return with an unconscious woman in your arms. Send 2 guards to meet me at my room. Then you and Maria meet me in my office in 10. I order him." He nodded. "Right away, Cass." He mock saluted me as I rolled my eyes. I walked into the palace. Servants and warriors bowed as I walked past them. I quickly made it to my room. Walking in, I gently set Gemma on my bed. I looked down at her for a moment, taking in her beauty. The moon goddess truly blessed me. I couldn't wait to show her how much I appreciated her. I leaned down and kissed her cheek. She stirred slightly and smiled. I only hoped it was me she was thinking about. I walked over to my desk and pulled out a pad of paper and pen. I wrote her a note. Then I heard a knock at the door. I opened it to a couple of Omegas and my driver, who had Gemma's luggage. "Set it in the closet, please." They hurried in and set the bags in the closet. "Thank you," I said to them as they exited my room. There were 2 of my strongest guards also standing outside. "Sam, Floyd." I need you to stay outside the door. No one is to disturb my queen, do you understand? They both nodded. Yes, Your Majesty, Sam replied. I left her a note telling her that if she needs anything to inform one of you. So, if she needs anything, see to it that she gets it. I instructed the guards. They both nodded and bowed. Good. I'll be back in a few hours, I said before heading down to my office. Maria and Deke were sitting inside arguing. They both stopped as I walked in and sat down behind my desk. So? Deke asked quizzically. Taking a deep breath and set my folded hands on the desk. I found her. Deke and Maria exchanged glances and then looked at me. Our queen? Maria asked. I nodded. Yes, sorry I was vague last night. I had to find her and then retrieve her from her home territory. They both moved their heads. What do you mean retrieve her? Wasn't she at the ball? Deke asked me. She was, and then she excused herself to the ladies' room where she jumped out a window and ran home. Their mouths fell open as Deke laughed. I shot him a glare. It's not funny, Deke. I'm sorry, Cass, but it's a little funny. I was relieved when Maria punched his arm. Thank you, Maria. I praised my Delta. Anyways, I went to her home pack to retrieve and bring her home. So, who is she? Deke asked while rubbing his now bruised arm and glaring at Maria. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.